combat halfway around the globe, and the potential ripple effect here at home. How the war in Ukraine could have a big impact on Indiana farmers, jobs, and investments. Plus,
the greatest spectacle in racing.
Indiana's drive for tourism dollars.
Erickson to the inside.
The state's strategy to cash in on the greatest spectacle in racing and everything else uniquely Hoosier. And celebrating Father's Day in Indiana with a bite to eat. Yelp's Brittany Smith is here with Hoosier entrepreneurs, serving up some of the best meat, chicken, and seafood in the state. Inside Indiana Business is next.
Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gerry Dick. This week, the war in Ukraine and the potentially devastating consequences for the U.S. and Indiana economies, from soaring energy prices to a fractured food supply chain. What role can Indiana play in stabilizing the long-term impact of the war? And are there opportunities for the state to join with the private sector in those solutions? My special guest this week is former U.S. Ambassador to the UN Agencies for Food and Agriculture, Kip Tom, who's joining us now from Tom Farms in Leesburg, Kosciuszko County. And Kip, thank you for joining us.
Well, it's an honor to be with you, Gerry. You know, Gerry, when I look at what's going on in the war in Ukraine right now, you know, we know it's disastrous for the people there. Nearly 6 million have migrated out of the country into Eastern Europe. We have another 7 million that are internally displaced within Ukraine, and we have another 47 million that are on the edge of hunger across Africa because we are unable to get the wheat supplies to them. And that's where the private sector has been working hard to try to open up some channels to get grain into meeting some of those hungry people across Africa. It's to the point where the World Food Program is deciding who gets to eat and who doesn't right now.
Wow. As you look at it, Kip, and I know you're very involved and engaged in this on a daily basis, but as you look at the short-term and long-term implications for the food supply chain and the economy in particular here in Indiana, as you look at it and where it's headed, how significant, how substantial could this be?
Well, I think as we look around the corner, we know that agriculture is very dependent upon fertilizer. It is a major building block to produce foods. And I think you can look back at the world charts and see that when nitrogen production began, that's when the human population started to expand. And there's no question we need to bring some of these supply chains back to the United States, and I'd certainly like to bring some back to Indiana.
Okay, that's the point I wanted to make, because you firmly believe that Indiana can play a role in connection with the private sector, perhaps, but can play a role in these solutions. How so? Give us some examples.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. An example would be that if we look at, for instance, nitrogen production, nearly a third of the world's nitrogen that is exported comes out of Russia. Belarus is a producer of potassium. Those products we could get out of Canada. We can get nitrogen production start here in the United States, and hopefully here in Indiana, whether on the north coast of, on the Michigan coast or down on the Ohio River. But the reality is we have the potential to do it right here.
Well, as you look at what's it going to take to make that happen, is it engaging state government, the private sector, all of the above? What's going to take?
I think we need to engage everybody. We need to leverage people from Corteva. We need to talk to, like the Mitch Frasers over at Agronovus and other companies around Indiana, and try to go out and do a travel around the world and talk to companies that would want to call Indiana home. I really believe this is an opportunity now for us to move forward, to bring these supply chains back and to create more jobs and grow the economy of Indiana.
As you look, and again, you're engaged on a daily basis. I know we're fortunate. I think you're back from Kansas City today and headed maybe back out to New York. So you've been traveling a lot and dealing with this issue. But as you look at kind of the long-term implications and where you see things going, so many uncertainties right now, where do you see things going with the conflict and the impact?
Well, let's face it, Russia is never going to be a friend of the United States. China is not going to be a friend of the United States. We need to realize this is a long-term play, and that's why I'm saying we need to bring these supply chains back to the United States. There's so many of them, whether it's chemicals coming out of China. We need to work with our regulatory people in Washington, D.C. and make sure we have reasonable regulations that will allow these facilities to come to the United States. So oftentimes we think we're the most durable and reliable ag production food system in the world, but are we really? If we don't control the supply chains, we've globalized so much of it over the past 50 years. It's time to look at this and say, do we bring this home to the U.S. or to our friends and allies, people we can count on? That's the point we're at. We need to move now.
Certainly a lot of uncertainty out there in the economy in general, but as you look at the ag economy, kind of the state of the ag economy in particular here in Indiana, Kip, what's your take on the state of agriculture?
Well, I'd say the ag economy in Indiana is pretty durable. It's pretty strong right now. I think we're going to see good revenues, good returns this year, but what happens if commodity prices turn around and these input prices stay high? We can certainly turn this around really quick, whether it's the cost of machinery, land, or inputs. They're all high. We're growing the most valuable and the most expensive crop. So it's a lot of risk. And a lot of it from now on out throughout the rest of this year is up to Mother Nature.
Yeah, very good. Ambassador Kip Tom. Kip, really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. Thank you for your leadership, too, in the ag community, not only here in Indiana, but certainly around the globe. And please keep in touch. I'd like to come back and talk to you again and see how things are going. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate the time. All right. Well, one Indiana business leader who knows Russia and Eastern Europe like the back of his hand, Nate Feltman. He's my guest this week on the Business and Beyond podcast. Feltman is the CEO, publisher, and owner of the IBJ Media, the parent company of Inside Indiana Business. He spent time in Russia in the 90s, fresh out of law school at IU. He spent nearly 4 years in Russia helping companies from all over the world set up shop in Russia's new marketplace. He says it was an interesting front row seat to history.
When people say it was the wild, wild west, that's really really true. I mean, it was capitalism without rules, because it was all things. There was a war over the assets of Russia. Everything had been owned by the government. All of a sudden, everything's privatized.
Much more with IBJ CEO and owner Nate Feltman on the next edition of the Business and Beyond podcast, and you can find it beginning Monday at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. Coming up next, using the greatest spectacle in racing as a tourism tool. More on the state's new strategy to get more people to live, work, and play in Indiana. Well, there is a new strategy in play to get more tourists to check out all things Indiana, from the shores of Lake Michigan to the banks of the Ohio River and every Hoosier nook and cranny in between, including touting the Indianapolis 500 and the Indiana State Fair. Visit Indiana, the Indiana Destination Development Corporation launching the In Indiana campaign this week with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as a backdrop. And I'm pleased to welcome back to the show Indiana Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch. And Governor, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Gerry. Thanks
was at the announcement this week, a big announcement, certainly at a big place, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Talk about this new campaign. First of all, the need to do it, because this started well over a year ago, and the planning stage had been through a lot of curves and turns and things. Talk about the need for this campaign.
Well, Indiana has an incredible quality of life. But as Hoosiers, I always say we're humble, and we don't do a very good job of telling our story. So we felt post-COVID it was important to talk about the quality of life we had in Indiana and the incredible assets we have and everything that you can enjoy in Indiana. And that was the impetus for the actual campaign.
And you're going to really leverage big events. We see the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, that iconic shot right there, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, so many others, academic institutions and others are going to engage with this campaign. That's a key part of it, right? To have these institutions, organizations, even individuals, communities engage with the In Indiana campaign.
Yeah, the beauty of In Indiana is it is so simple, but it is so powerful. And it's a unifier, it's inclusive. Anyone can use In Indiana. We can say the news is better in Indiana. You know,
Absolutely, I like that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it for anything. A restaurant can say, you know, our burgers are better in Indiana. So it is all inclusive, and it's something that is free. It doesn't cost people anything to be able to participate in the campaign.
So it's almost like a viral approach to it, you know, to get people to use it, and that kind of builds a snowball, kind of grassroots snowball effect around the state.
Absolutely, and all the good things that are happening in Indiana, whether they're within our towns and communities or whether they're at our universities, now everybody will know that that is taking place in Indiana. So it is going to instill pride, and it's going to create that identity of what Indiana is really all about.
Marketing campaigns for tourism are nice, but there's really a lot at stake, in my opinion, here, because tourism is such a big business in the state of Indiana. You know, billions of dollars at stake here. So this campaign is aimed at getting a bigger piece of that pie.
Absolutely. Tourism contributes right under $10 billion to our state's economy and supports 208,000 Hoosier jobs. And so what we saw as a result of COVID is that tourism and the leisure-related industries really were on the decline. So this is a perfect time to be able to come out with this new identifier and create and instill that pride and grow that tourism economy for Indiana.
Yeah, as you look at funding, and I think $3+ million from the American Rescue Plan going into this, but traditionally, Indiana has been outspent by its neighbors in tourism, has been underfunded, some would argue. Do you think that's going to change? Do you think legislators and others are seeing the value of investing in tourism?
Well, the beauty about this campaign is we'll have metrics in place so that we can measure the return on investment. And I am optimistic that when we're able to show legislators the return on investment from this particular campaign in Indiana, we'll be able to make the case for more money in next year's budget session.
Yeah. As you look at rural areas of the state, assuming the festivals and so many things that take place around the state of Indiana, those areas especially hit hard by the pandemic and have had some challenging economic times. Do you see this campaign as really benefiting, potentially benefiting the rural areas and the smaller areas around the state?
Oh, absolutely, because by using in Indiana, they start to create that identity. So the Strassenfest, as the governor pointed out, in Jasper, the Strassenfest is great in Indiana. The Blueberry Festival is great in Indiana. I mean, you name the festival, you name the fair,
how about the Little Italy Festival in Clinton, Indiana, my hometown?
Is great in Indiana.
I'll have to tell them about that.
In Indiana.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, Governor, your expectations. I mean, I know you and others are very high on this campaign. What's going to mark a successful campaign as you look on down the road?
Well, I think as we look down the road, it'll be measured by the increase in visitors to Indiana, the effect on our economy as a result of that, and longer term is the amount of students that we can keep in Indiana, and then the talent that we can attract to Indiana by telling our authentic story.
Yeah, well, it gets back to talent in so many ways. Indiana Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch, in Indiana, the new campaign. Thank you, as always, for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Well, coming up, Theater on Wheels, an innovative approach to showcasing Indiana's independent filmmakers with a twist. Well, a major milestone along Indiana's southern border. Mary Rachel Redmond is here now with more on the multi-million-dollar upgrade to the ports of Indiana.
Well, just last week, we highlighted the unprecedented growth going on in southern Indiana. And the completion of a $24 million port in Jeffersonville is another big boon for the area. Indiana Port says it made the multi-million-dollar investment to expand capacity and speed up loading time from trains and trucks to barges. So why does any of this matter for folks outside of Jeffersonville? Well, it means big money for the rest of the state. The Jeffersonville port alone contributes nearly $2 billion to Indiana's economy annually. But that's not all. According to Ports of Indiana CEO Vanta Kota, this expansion will also help more Hoosier businesses grow too.
The different attributes are really designed around bigger capacity, more ability to handle future growth, and then for our customers to leverage those infrastructure assets so that they can grow. So really our design is make bigger, better infrastructure that private companies can utilize, and then they hire more people. They invest more dollars. That's really where we get our main synergy for the state.
And in Fort Wayne, it's phase 2 of the city's riverfront redevelopment project. The plan includes an extension of the elevated tree canopy trail, boat docks for private boats, and walking trails. Over the last decade, Fort Wayne has invested over $1 billion in its downtown. And Mayor Tom Henry says it's exciting to see major private investment on the city's riverfront.
To the east, right, is a new mixed-use development. It's about a $90 million investment by Barrett and Stokely, and in fact they liked it so much they're going to build another one about 2 blocks east of that. So we're getting a lot of excitement about this particular area of the river, something that we've never experienced before.
And finally, for all you movie lovers out there, the Hoosier Films Mobile Cinema is making its debut, hopefully. The first of its kind theater that would feature screen collections from Indiana's independent filmmakers is planning to be a mobile theater to travel statewide to fairs, festivals, and special venues. But Bloomington-based Hoosier Films needs your help to make the $36,000 mobile cinema a reality. Over the next 3 weeks, you can visit their crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo. If Hoosier Films is able to raise enough capital, the theater will be constructed this year and make its debut on the road in 2023. Well, for a look at more Hoosier headlines and stories across the state, visit our website at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. Gary?
All right, Mary Rachel, lots going on around the state of Indiana, including big news coming out of northern Indiana in South Bend. This week, the University of Notre Dame dedicated 2 new facilities that will support the school's research, development, and testing of hypersonic propulsion systems. That is a growing area of the economy. The testing that will help lead toward the development of high-speed flight engines and hypersonic aviations. What that's all about. Hypersonic speed is fast, ultra fast. It exceeds 5 times the speed of sound. There's been a lot of focus on using hypersonics to advance the nation's strategic defense system. But Notre Dame researchers really say that getting passenger planes to travel at Mach 6 speed, 6 times the speed of sound, would definitely revolutionize air travel. There are people who think Indiana can be a part of it. We'll be right back with some Father's Day gift ideas. Think meat. That's after this. Stay with us. We'll take your summer grilling game to the next level with these Hoosier artisanal meat businesses. With Father's Day now just around the corner, these businesses also serve up some tasty gift ideas. Yelp's Brittany Smith has more in this month's Trendiana segment. Brittany, welcome.
Thanks so much, Gary.
Father's Day coming up. And, you know, everyone's always looking for a unique gift. Yes. And these artisan meats have really kind of come into their own, right?
Yeah, definitely. More and more of these butcher shops are creating their own unique sausages, hamburgers. It gives you a chance to try something new and support a local business. All
right, let's talk about some of these local businesses. One is the SAVORY Swine, very successful place down in Columbus.
Yeah, they've been around for years, a staple right there in the heart of the city. And it's not just a great shop for the butcher or the meats that are fresh in their case, but you're also going to find a boutique wine selection. They're known for their charcuterie boards that you can take to go, pick up everything that you might need for a picnic, but folks also love their lunch menu with all their meats on hand.
Wow, okay. Here in Indianapolis, Old Major. I know you've got some product here on the desk, but Old Major.
Beautiful sausages. I've had a lot of fun actually visiting them at a lot of local farmers markets, Garfield Park, for example. You can also order them online through Market Wagon and their website, but they make really creative sausages. So you're gonna find things like Chinese 5-spice duck sausage, where they're using truffles and really fun ingredients in each of their sausages.
Always like each month, Brittany, you give us a statewide flavor, literally, of organizations, companies. Acorn Acres is in Northwest Indiana in Chesterton.
Yeah, since 1969, they've been raising their own meats that you're going to buy at their shop in town. So it's both a farm and the shop. You can actually order them online. And if you're wanting to try something new with your grilling, they've got a new offering. It's called Ethiopian Berber sausage. It's got a little kick to it. I'd like to try that out myself, but it's a really fun family-owned business.
And you mentioned this, 1969. In terms terms of the sustainable practice game, they're kind of ahead of the game.
Yeah, using no hormones, no antibiotics, they were definitely ahead of the game.
Okay, the Smoking Goose. That is a name that a lot of people know. They really paved the way for a lot of these other businesses.
For sure. They're celebrating 15 years this year.
Wow.
You're going to find their products, you know, when you're in Chicago, you might even see it on the menu there. I've stumbled upon it in Italy and throughout the cities. But they are celebrating 15 years this year, and in the Holy Cross neighborhood, you can visit their meat locker. Fun Father's Day gift. They've got a carnivore meat basket filled with salamis, which they're best known for, as well as some other meats in that basket, but also a bacon making class. It's really fun if you want to do something hands-on with that.
So you mentioned Holy Cross, and they still have, of course, the location there to
Fall Creek.
Yeah.
Can't beat both those spots.
Yeah, good. Okay, final stop, Lebanon, and that's St. Adrian.
Yeah,
right?
St. Adrian, right there off the square in Lebanon. They are making all of their meats in-house right there at that location. They're known for their sausages as well as the burger mixes. They get really creative with it, using blue cheeses, or they've got like a poblano and cheeseburger, so you can try something new.
Yeah.
They also have over 50 different types of sausages on rotation. Folks really love in the Yelp reviews the filet kebabs. They're made to order, top of the line meat. I'm eyeing them right here.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I'm smelling it too. The smell is really great. Brittany, you don't need to go through every one, but do they all offer online ordering? Do you have to go
about
in?
half of them, half of them offer, and it's like if you can't get it delivered through them, actually like Smoking Goose, for example, Old Major, you can get it shipped to you. You can order ahead, swing by for quick pickup. Businesses are getting more creative with their e-commerce, for
and
sure.
You mentioned businesses, and each and every month, I think you need to underscore these are businesses. These are entrepreneurs who are out there putting it on the line each and every day. Right?
Yes, definitely. And getting folks to think, not just go into your local grocery store. Some of these you can actually find at the grocery stores, but thinking about how can I buy my meat locally? How can I buy my cheese locally? And think about that.
Artisan meats. Hope my kids are taking notes. We've got some great opportunities. Brittany Smith, as always, great to have you.
Thanks so much, Gary.
All right. Well, a supply and demand challenge in healthcare. Not enough nurses to care for patients. In our next half hour, see what the IU School of Nursing is doing to help solve what some describe as a crisis.
The nursing shortage, one of the biggest challenges in healthcare today. See how the IU School of Nursing is addressing the problem. Plus, students bringing the energy at Whitcove Junior Senior High in Northern Indiana. Learn what Ivy Tech is doing to enhance their experience in the classroom.
Being defended by his friend. Magic, foul, basket's gonna count, Larry Bird.
Bird, Magic, Jordan, and Dr. J. The NBA's elite hooping it up in the Hoosier Dome in 1985. An update on Indianapolis's game plan to host the NBA All-Star Game in 2024. The second half of Inside Indiana Business is next.
Well, a nationwide nursing shortage existed before the pandemic, and being on the front lines of fighting COVID caused higher turnover rates than ever before. Indiana University is responding by increasing enrollment to swell the ranks of nurses. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta has more.
Thank you, Gary. The IU School of Nursing Dean says this is a high urgency issue, so the school is expanding its nursing program on all 3 campuses throughout the state. IUPUI will see the biggest boost with a 50% enrollment increase based on a $16 million gift from IU Health. IU Fort Wayne and IU Bloomington are also adding spots to train more nurses. IU School of Nursing Dean Robin Newhouse joins me now to tell us more. Thanks for being on the show today.
My pleasure.
All right, let's talk about the shortage. We established that exists, but why is it such a serious problem that we should all care about?
Well, it's a serious problem because it's not only an economic problem, it's a clinical problem and it's a health problem. The urgent need for nurses makes us concerned that people won't get the care that they need. Nursing in particular, one of the largest clinical professions, has a profound role to improve the health of the population. Nurses themselves are trained in a lot of different ways. They work in multiple settings. The outcomes associated with nursing are important and promote health. So let me just start by saying what nurses do. Nurses prevent injury, they promote health, they diagnose and treat the human response to different phenomena, pain. The outcomes that are associated with nurses are related to clinical outcomes like I mentioned, pain management, also decrease infections, nosocomial or hospital-acquired infections, falls, as well as patient experience. Nursing has a role in patient experience that increases satisfaction by patients as well. In addition, length of stay is lower, as well as the return to the hospital or readmission to the hospital. So nursing is important for a number of ways. In fact, one of the issues, nursing is so important, the Bureau of Health Professions are predicting that nursing is going to be one of the most important jobs for growth, and because of the need for nurses.
So I know that we don't like to focus on the numbers a lot in these stories because you say, nurses aren't numbers, they're not widgets, and I know you're very passionate about that. So I think we do want to talk about, though, IU being unique in the sense that it provides a full spectrum of nurses and the way that it trains nurses, everything from beginner nurses on. Can you explain that just a little bit?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. The nurses, when we talk about entry-level nurses, so all the discussion about we need more nurses, people are talking about entry-level nurses. They're generally at the associate degree level or the baccalaureate level. So Indiana University offers a baccalaureate level. A associate degree nurse and a baccalaureate nurse will sit for their licensing exam at the end of their program. Indiana University also includes a set of graduate programs and tracks as well. At the graduate level, a master's in nursing, we have 5 nurse practitioner tracks. Nurse practitioners are those clinicians that work in primary care or acute care that diagnose and treat people. This is an opportunity for us across the state to employ nurse practitioners. We have counties that don't have enough healthcare clinicians and providers, and nurse practitioners are a solution to that. In addition, we train clinical nurse specialists who are also known for the ability to manage populations of people and improve outcomes, reducing the cost of care as well. Nurse practitioner, the quality, safety, and effectiveness of nurse practitioners are undeniable.
And I know there's a need for all of those nurses right now with this shortage. I'm so sorry, but we're already out of time. I know there's also some expansion happening on IUPUI campus because of this money from IU Health. So good luck with that and keep us posted on those numbers.
Thank you.
Gerry, back to you.
Well, runs with enthusiasm and spirit like this. No wonder Whitko Junior Senior High in Northern Indiana caught the attention of higher education leaders. Ivy Tech Community College's campus in Warsaw is partnering with Whitko Community Schools to launch the Ivy Tech Academy, which will offer high school students a dedicated space to attend virtual college classes during the school day. Ivy Tech Warsaw Vice Chancellor Alan Decker is here now with how the program works. Alan joining us from the Warsaw campus. Alan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Let's talk about the Ivy Tech Academy, because this offers high school students, in this case in Whitko Junior Senior High School, the opportunity to earn an entire year of college credits by the time they graduate from high school. That's not necessarily new. The new aspect here is they can do it virtually. Tell us about the Academy.
Right. Well, Whitko has a new superintendent, Tim Pravarnik, and he's very visionary, and he really wanted to be able to put Whitko on the map in terms of being able to attract new students into the school system. Being rural and kind of far away from some of the other universities, he wanted to pursue this opportunity. And so we talked and envisioned together. We did a site visit. We asked how we could help. And very quickly, this came together. And so they'll be converting a former library space this summer. And we've donated some funds to be able to purchase monitors and audio sets, and so that students can come and go throughout the school day, take an Ivy Tech course or two to be able to finish, hopefully, a credential, maybe even hopefully the Indiana College Core, which is that 30 credit hour core of first year college courses, and then to be able to transfer to their university of choice as a sophomore.
What does it, as you look at it, because a lot of these classes are liberal arts and related classes here, but the opportunity to come out of high school, the full year of college under your belt, there's a cost savings, time savings. There are a lot of benefits to having that be the case.
Right, not only time and money savings, but just readiness, that much more prepared for the rigor of college life. You know, a dual credit course or a dual enrollment course is college material. It's what we teach all of our other students. There is no diluted content. And so when a high school student can get a jump on that kind of academic rigor and understand the ropes and what's required to really complete on time and to do college level work, they're just that much more bound to be successful when they go off to college. Yeah, I know the Ivy Tech Academy there in Warsaw really geared toward the rural areas there. Give us maybe a typical day of a student utilizing and taking advantage of the Ivy Tech Academy, how that would work, the balance between the high school work and the college work. Sure. Well, you know, as a freshman or sophomore, their days are pretty full. They've got a pretty full slate of courses. But by the time they're getting to their junior year and especially to their senior year, there are a lot of other gaps of time because maybe they've worked ahead and they've completed that high school curriculum. And so they've got room in their day to be able to do other supplemental things. Many students choose to go off campus and do internships or other kind of supervised activities. But we think those open blocks of time would be perfect opportunity for them to take a virtual or online course at Ivy Tech, especially online, because that can be done at any time. That can be fit into their schedule. Virtual is kind of like this, where via Zoom, they are in a synchronous kind of situation, but online is really super flexible. Yeah, and also no doubt helping the talent pipeline, which is so important indeed. The Ivy Tech Academy, a new partnership with Whitko Junior Senior High School in Northern Indiana. Alan Decker, Vice Chancellor at Ivy Tech Warsaw. Alan, thanks for joining us. Thank you so much. All right. Well, the last time the cream of the crop in the NBA hooped it up in Indy, Bird, Magic, Dr. J were on the court. More on Indianapolis preparing to host the 2024 NBA All-Star Game and the potential impact when we come back. Well, the report is in from Cleveland, and what kind of money this year's NBA All-Star Game pumped into the area, and it bodes well for Indianapolis. Bill Benner has more in this week's Inside Indiana Sports. Bill.
Gary, thanks. An economic impact study from the 2022 NBA All-Star Game in Northern Ohio indicates the high-profile game and its high-profile guest dropped some serious dollars to the local economy while they were there. And that means good things for local organizers in Indianapolis as they prepare for the 2024 NBA All-Star Game here in Indianapolis. And joining us today with the numbers we are again joined by Mel Raines, the Pacers Sports and Entertainment Senior Executive leading the All-Star efforts. And Mel, welcome to the program. How are you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me on, Bill. I'm great.
Well, and these are big numbers coming out of the Cleveland game last February. $141 million in overall economic direct spending, $250 million in overall economic impact, and we can only hope that Indianapolis will do is much better than that.
Yeah, we certainly do. I mean, those were astounding numbers coming out of Cleveland, especially considering we were really coming out of COVID at that point. So it wasn't a truly normal All-Star weekend, and they did have to amend some of what they were planning to do. And so we are more excited than ever to host in 2024 when we saw those numbers and we saw the impact, especially the global impact of what the All-Star Game reaches 215 countries. They had 223 million Instagram views that weekend. And that's just a level of global impact we don't usually see from some of the events we host here.
Yeah, the international, that's something that I didn't even consider, but they had 121,000 actual visitors from 45 states and 20 countries. So that's truly remarkable.
It is. I mean, basketball is a global sport and it is played all over the world. The Basketball Africa League started in 2021, and it's just we just have fans. You know, we have a lot of fans, as you know, even in the Philippines. I think we have 1 million people who follow us on social media in the Philippines. So we played in India a couple of years ago, and we so that impact for the kinds of sports we usually do here have such a huge impact in our country, but this is kind of next level for us.
And one of the benefits, if there are benefits, and there are benefits of the game being postponed that we were supposed to have a year ago, the phase 3 of Gainbridge Fieldhouse, I almost did it. Gainbridge Fieldhouse, all those renovations and the plaza, all that will be complete for our visitors.
Yeah, one of the many silver linings, I think, from COVID is that we'll be completely done with the project. So we'll be done this fall with everything inside. And then in the spring, Bicentennial Unity Plaza will open, which we're really excited about. And when we had originally bid on All-Star back in 2017, those weren't even contemplated. So we had not completed the deal with the city to stay for another 25 years, and the scope of the project wasn't fully known. And so now to have that in our plans and have the building completely done will just make the weekend, I think, go much better and be smoother for everybody.
And Mel, as we wrap up, another bonus, 21 legacy projects now increased to 24. So statewide impact for thousands of youth across the state of Indiana.
Yeah, when we knew we had to push the game, we talked to the NBA about making 24 legacy projects instead of 21, which they immediately embraced and wanted to do. And we'll also name another class of 24 rising stars, high school seniors in the class of 24 that will be engaged in All-Star Weekend. And we hope to engage the original class of 21 as well. So hopefully we'll have 45 young people helping us make this a weekend for everybody to remember.
Well, Mel Raines, thank you. Again, leading the 2024 All-Star efforts. She was intricately involved in taking our Super Bowl to a new level. I know you'll do the same for the All-Star game. Thanks, Mel, and appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, and Gary, back to you.
All right, Bill, thank you. Well, crews assigned to the 49th Aerial Port Squadron at GRISSOM Air Reserve Base near Peru have a new $9.3 million building to support their mission. The Kokomo Tribune reporting the facility provides more space for the 122 airmen posted at GRISSOM who are responsible for preparing and loading cargo onto military planes. The nearly 12,000 square foot aerial port triples the former space used by the squadron, and that facility includes a dedicated training area to learn how to pack, load, and deliver both military and humanitarian cargo. Indianapolis International Airport increases incentives. Could Indiana's high-flying tech scene be in for a slowdown? And what is Indianapolis International doing to be more competitive? A couple of the stories our partners at the IBJ are working on this week. IBJ news editor Mason King joins me from the IBJ newsroom with more. Thanks for joining us, Mason.
Sure thing, Gary.
Hey, okay, the tech community, venture capital has been a pretty good story the last couple of years. A lot of money flowing into the state, but I know there's a story coming up this weekend that may be about to change.
Yeah, 2021, as you know, was a banner year for venture capital. The money that gets invested in early stage companies, help them grow or just even get off the ground. But the venture capital companies are letting companies know now that that spigot is going to tighten. And that's for a number of reasons. The volatile stock market, the war in Ukraine, there's a massive slowdown in the IPO market. So it's possible that we're going to start seeing some layoffs here in Indianapolis. It's something that we've seen already nationally. Mm-hmm. And time will tell. So far, the companies that we've spoken with seem to think that they're going to get through this okay.
Yeah. Interesting story, too, from CICERO you have this weekend. Talking about horses really coming to the aid of both children and adults with special needs.
Yeah, our Daniel Bradley has a great story about Agape Therapeutic Riding Resources, which is a not-for-profit organization. It has 2 complexes, one in CICERO, one in Greenfield, and they provide access to animals, especially riding animals, for people who have therapeutic needs, mental health challenges, even the elderly. And they're able to do this sometimes at no cost or a reduced cost.
Interesting. Okay, one more. Indianapolis International Airport, routinely viewed as the best airport in North America, but the competition for flights, for routes is very strong. And I know a story this week, going to talk about incentives and how Indianapolis joining some other regional airports in offering incentives.
Well, yeah, the Indianapolis Airport Authority is updating its incentive packages so that it will have $5 million to play with over the next 2 years that can offer carriers in a way, as a way to beckon them or to attract them to Indianapolis to create new non-stop routes. Really, the big fish here are the international routes. The Airport Authority would love to have that Paris route back. They're also looking at London.
Very good. Just a few of the stories in this weekend's IB Journal will be chock full of some great stories. Mason King, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. More now on the IBJ and its CEO and co-owner, Nate Feldman. He's my guest on the next edition of the Business and Beyond podcast. IBJ Media is the parent company of Inside Indiana Business. It's a partnership formed last year, combined 60 years of business coverage in Indiana. Local media ownership, deeply important to Nate Feldman, who grew up in Mishawaka.
And there's just something different when decision makers aren't local. They're not as engaged in the community. You're not running into them at the coffee shop. You're not banking with them. They're banking somewhere else. Local ownership means a lot in terms of community engagement.
We'll have much more with IBJ Media CEO and owner Nate Feldman on the next edition of the Business and Beyond podcast. You can find it beginning Monday at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. Coming up next, our panel of insiders weigh in on the impact of the war in Ukraine and a potential window of economic opportunity for Indiana farmers. Welcome back to the show and our panel of insiders here to break down all things Indiana business this week. Pleased to be joined by Beck Communications Group President Laura Beck. Also, IndyPolitics.org publisher Abdul Hakim Shabazz and KSM Consulting Development Executive Bruce Kidd. Welcome one and all to the Insiders.
Well, good to be here.
And some breaking news, if you will, late in the week. Governor Holcomb, a lot of people saying, hey, you got to spend some of that surplus, announced plans to take $1 billion out of the surplus and essentially refund to taxpayers, giving them about $225. Good idea. It's going to make a difference.
I think at the end of the day, it'll make a difference in the short run because it'll put more money in Hoosiers' pockets they could go put back in their gas tanks. Also, I think what the governor did was very responsible. They waited until they had the revenue forecast to come out to say how much money we're going to have, how much money can we do this responsibly, give money back and still meet all our commitments, just like roads and bridges and infrastructure. And so, as my good friend Laura would say, cutting the gas tax is good politics, but is bad public policy.
Oh, he just likes to put words in my mouth. Abdul does. I mean, I think it's definitely time to do this. People have been calling for it. We are hearing about folks who are really struggling with the gas tax, and the gas issues are a global issue as well. But I just think back to when Governor O'Bannon did this, and so Governor Holcomb can't steal, thanks a billion. Governor. That's what he had. He had a little bumper sticker. So yeah, it makes sense. It really does at this point in time.
It seems to me it's an indication of our fiscal position versus most states that we can even do this.
Got the money to do it. Yeah, $225. How many fill-ups will that get us?
Get me 4 or 5.
4 or 5?
But I don't drive much anymore. I work at home.
Okay, good. Big news this week, too. The tourism industry in Indiana. It's a $10 billion industry. After a year plus of work and planning a new marketing campaign, a slogan, if you will. In Indiana is the new slogan. Interesting concept. They're going to really connect with a lot of institutions, be it businesses, academic institutions, communities, festivals around the state. Laura, as you look at first of all, the spots that they unveiled and also the name, the In Indiana, do you like it?
I do. I mean, I think anyone can poke fun at any slogan. I mean, remember Wander, Indiana, right? So, I mean, that can happen. But I think from a large strategic standpoint, what they're doing is they're giving a really helpful resource to communities, municipalities, and others who may not have the financial resources to implement those campaigns on their own. So they're really, I think, giving a boost to them and doing it in a cohesive way is really important. What I also like is that the company that did this is based here in Indiana. So often business and community leaders think they need to go outside of the state, and they don't. That talent is right here.
Yeah, and Laura brings up a good point, is that this is free for these communities and stuff to tag on and to put this as part of their marketing campaigns. But bigger picture, Indiana has woefully underfunded tourism marketing for years. Do you think that's going to change? Are they going to get more money from the legislature to help fund these kinds of initiatives?
I think they will. And also the one thing I like about this program in particular is, unlike the Restart Your Engines, which was a few years ago, this you can basically use anywhere for anything.
Yeah.
It's universal. So whether it's like in Indiana, in Fort Wayne, Evansville, Richmond, it fits.
Yeah, definitely more so even than a state that works. That's not something that folks could have used in an outside of, I mean, really outside of economic development.
The more people we bring into the state, the better.
Yeah.
And this is a vehicle for those smaller communities. Everybody knows the Indy 500, but not everybody knows Brown County or Bremen or wherever else that that hasn't had the opportunity to get the word out. This helps them do that.
Yeah. Speaking of smaller communities, rural communities around the state of Indiana, news this week that Grace College in northern Indiana beginning planning for a new agriculture center. And Bruce, I thought it's interesting because a number of schools are really beginning to implement ag programs. Huntington College in northeast Indiana, among them, have had real success in generating ag graduates. A part of feeding that pipeline.
Yeah. Well, Laura and I were talking earlier. Huge component of our economy, the ag business economy. But those are family businesses. They're businesses, and you have to train the next generation to lead those businesses rather than just work on them or in them. It's a great initiative to train the next leaders of all these family farms that we want to keep around. It's billions of dollars of impact.
Yeah, and interesting too, if you talk to Agrinovus, they will tell you the number of jobs in the ag space, the ag bioscience space, runs the gamut from marketing to you name it, all under the ag umbrella. So there are all kinds of careers that are out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it contributes $32 billion to our state's economy. And the same time, what I like about it is not all kids are big school kids, no offense to our large Indiana institutions. So this is a great way for them to really dig into those careers and get really some intense one-on-one attention.
Yep. Abdul, we talk a lot about the talent pipeline across all industries, manufacturing, you name it. Can this, Purdue obviously is world-class in the ag space and has been for many decades, will continue to be so. But can these smaller universities, colleges and universities make a difference in
I think so, because for one reason, you no longer have to go to Purdue to get your ag degree. If you're at Grace or at Huntington, you can actually sort of stay local, which I think is a major deal. And also, like you said, it's building that pipeline, and you got to go meet people where they are, and I think this is one of those ways to do that.
Yeah. Also, some news. Been some big economic development announcements in recent weeks. Stellantis up in Kokomo, Lilly in Lebanon, Walmart announcing or confirming plans for a major distribution center out east, and 1,000 jobs in McCordsville. And Laura, we were talking before we went on. That's a community, a lot of growth out there. And the new economic development director comes from Fishers and Speedway.
I think it's really interesting to see how that area is popping. Bruce and I were talking about, he's got a lot of folks he knows even who have moved out there. That area is just primed for growth. And it's true, Tanya Galbraith, who's been there as the town manager, is retired. They've got a really active, engaged council. Their new town manager is Tim Gropp, coming from Speedway. I mean, they're really poised, I think, to move in a great direction.
I agree, and 1,000 jobs is fantastic. We got to be able to fill them, but the opportunity to do that's really good.
For, Bruce, final word to you on McCordsville in terms of from a planning standpoint. You have all that growth. You have residential growth. You have Walmart with 1,000 jobs. Other companies planning for that is a challenge.
It is a challenge, and you have to have a well thought out plan to support not only the Walmart with other suppliers and vendors, but then the residential and other beyond that. It can grow out of control, and that's why someone like Tim would be helpful to help them plan that out thoroughly.
Very good. Bruce Kidd, Laura Beck, Abdul Hakim Shabazz, thank you one and all.
Thanks.
Thank you. We'll be right back after this. Coming up next week, mega economic development projects. Can Indiana play in that space? Genova's managing director, Larry Gigerich, will join us, plus Marian University with a new school. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm Gerry Dick. Go out and make it a successful week.